explanation of
we have Dave
Twitter.
Smith here, by the way.
To make sense of this all, okay?
We need America's sweetheart, dad of two, stand-up comedian, political pundit, and now endorsed by Joe Rogan as the man to go to for political discourse.
I don't know exactly what he said, but it was something like genius of.
So it's funny because this clip is actually a little older, but it's literally the same conversation. So what's kind of scary about this now is that are we just running the same ticker tape? I mean, right now there is a controversy about who's allowed to talk about what topics. And Dave Smith was on the Joe Rogan show with Douglas Murray, was told he's not an expert. Experts are the only people who could talk about things. And Dave Smith had to debate Douglas Murray on that. Now, of course, a lot of people are, it all depends on who you like, right? So, you get people on Dave Smith's side, people on Douglas Murray's side. I can't stand Douglas Murray, but I still think that he mollywopped Dave Smith in the debate because, Dave Smith kept capitulating and saying, well, yeah, you know what, you're right. Well, yeah, you know what, you're right. Once you keep doing that, you've lost your point. But, yeah, Joe Rogan apparently has solidified him as the... So I see maybe why Douglas Murray was mad. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Of our time, everything he says is true. Something along those lines. I don't remember verbatim, but I really think you just encapsulated the whole thing by just going, all right, so the discourse on Twitter has been, wait a minute, this is offensive. You're like, oh man, how do you even say this?
I mean, you can't stop looking at it.
Yeah.
It's just the second I open it up, I'm like, the Jews did everything.
All right. So anyway, we've kind of talked about this before, but the other thing too that I noticed with this interview that I feel like nobody ever got to, and on purpose, is because is this section here on Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. Now, last year before Trump was inaugurated, became president, people were more honest to talk about things for what they were. Then Trump became president. Elon went in, Doge, this, that, and the third. Suddenly, Elon was the best. I want to see their rhetoric from last year, and I'll show you a little bit more of that Joe Rogan debate.
And Elon Musk and some of these guys who it's almost like they...
Hold on.
Weird thing, like with all the stuff we were talking about, like the way Donald Trump, which has always been one of the most fascinating things about him to me, is the way he triggers left-wing people, like the reaction that he gets out of them is it's so enraging that it's like blinding them to anything else. So I've never really liked Donald Trump. He's never been my style. I don't like that. Just a million things about him I don't like. But I was never so enraged by him that I couldn't be like, oh, this is a kind of fascinating moment right here. Like, this guy's running against the system and winning. And so it was almost like a lot of those left-wing people, they were just so like, oh, I hate Donald Trump. They were like, well, he's a Russian agent. They're like, that's right, he's a Russian agent. They'll just jump on whatever the anti-Trump narrative is, they'll jump on it. And then they'll be like, hey, that was the CIA who told you that. And left-wing guy, you're not supposed to like the CIA. Since when do you like the CIA? Like, there's just no more even critical thinking. So it's like, you don't have to like Donald Trump to look at this and go like, it does seem like there's something going on here.
Right, and that was the, the setup to make people start to, be more palatable to Donald Trump, with saying that the CIA was, which is true, they were running narratives on him, absolutely true. I wonder what narratives the CIA is running now. Nobody cares to talk about it or ask questions about it. Wait, guys, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. And thank you to every eye that lands on these videos. So they're about to get into the... I just want to get to the meat and potatoes about Elon and Peter Thiel because I was kind of shocked to see that.
Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and some of these guys who it's almost like they are trying... Like they have a startup oligarchy. Like they're just like, hey, listen,
technocrats.
This oligarchy has failed us so much that like we have to start our own oligarchy.
Who are these guys? The tech guys?
Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, these guys, and I generally do kind of go like, well, I mean, the current oligarchy is really failing the country, so like maybe these guys would be better. I mean, they're certainly not like.
Wait a minute, let's run that back. It's funny what you find when you. Okay, as I'm like, wait, what? Did I hear that correctly? I'm not sure that I did. Let me run that back.
And Elon Musk and some of these guys who it's almost like.
And by the way, he says Peter Thiel before Elon Musk, but it's the breakaway to the next clip. There's that sound, so you don't quite hear him say it.
They are trying, like they have a startup oligarchy. Like they're just like, hey, listen,
technocrats.
This oligarchy has failed us so much that like we have to start our own oligarchy.
Who are these guys? The tech guys?
Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, these guys, and I generally do kind of go like, well, I mean, the current oligarchy is really failing the country, so like maybe these guys would be better. Yeah. I mean, they're certainly not like principled libertarians or something like. They're not me. You know what I mean? Like they're willing to get CIA contracts or do whatever it is. It's like, I think my read on it is kind of like, I think these guys, first off, they're brilliant. They're very successful. And I think they see the current trajectory as a real long-term problem. And that they're kind of like, listen, like this is going to be really bad for business ultimately. Like if we keep going in this direction, this whole thing is going to collapse. And then we can't do what we're doing right now, which is making awesome. Billions of dollars.
Yeah,
you know?
Bad for their business, right? Not U.S. business. Yes.
Sure. Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know, to the extent that it overlaps, maybe both. I don't really know. But it does seem like there's no question that like Elon Musk, you know, I tend to kind of take him at his word that he wanted Twitter to be more of a free speech place to some degree. I think he believes that to some degree, but there does seem to be a dynamic there where it's like, I do also think he wanted to kind of let the pro-Trump people back on to Twitter. And that was kind of like, you know, a big part of, you know, if you're going to let the people who have been kicked off, well, who is that? It's mostly the pro-Trump people who have been kicked off. Not exclusively, but I don't know. There's an interesting force there where they are really behind Trump now, especially with JD Vance, who's Peter Thiel's guy.
Why did Elon back off of the $35 million a month that he said he was going to give Trump?
Oh, I wasn't even. I had heard someone say something.
I don't care. That's not even important. Yes, JD Vance is Peter Thiel's. He's his creation. Guys, just so you know, that book, Hillbilly Elegy, all of that stuff, was all part of the setup to build up J.D. Vance to look like this rural, you know, America First Appalachia guy, but he didn't live in the Appalachias. His I think it was his great-grandmother. His grandmother did. I mean, shout out to her, right? Wow, I did not know. Dave Smith is not the one who needs to be champion any debate. Like, I did not know that he glazed Peter Thiel. By this time, we knew that Peter Thiel was behind Palantir and, yes, had CIA contracts. How do you say, I don't do the oligarchy thing, right? But I understand that people have their own self-interest at heart. So you are saying, let's drop the old neocon type of like crony, you know, CIA, Silicon Valley stuff and pick up a new one, but it's going to help us this time. We're going to do it the same way, but a new way that's going to be something different? That doesn't even make any sense.
He's not doing a podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives. Come on, I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not claiming to be.
This is the thing, Joe. This is like punching jelly.
No, but you don't consume his work.
What I'm saying, because I don't need to consume endless versions of a revisionist history. I understand.
But it's not revisionist history. If you listen to his work, it's not revisionist history. He's basing it on historical work.
Yeah, I know. But okay, so this is my point about jelly. It's a shape-shifting thing. Comedian or historian?
He's not a comedian.
Historian or podcast? Would-be historian or actual historian? You say he doesn't claim to be a historian, but he's pumping out tens of hours of
neither
history.
Does Dan Carlin. He doesn't claim to be a historian either.
You see my point about the move. It's like some weird jiu-jitsu move where you say, hang on, you know all about this as well. You say, I'm not a historian, but I'm going to spend my time talking about history. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. It's a weird move, yeah?
No.
You don't think?
No, I'm a free American. I can talk about what I like to.
Yeah, but the problem is, Dave, and so now, like, I'm not saying that I'm taking, you know, Douglas Murray's side on this in any fashion, but the problem is, Dave, is that you could say that, but if you're not going to be right about what you're talking about, now I'm starting to feel like, hey, wait a second, maybe everybody shouldn't be talking, because to listen to Dave Smith glaze Peter Thiel, when you could do research and know what you're dealing with there. Alex Karp, these people are like, are you serious? I mean, it's not something that everybody will understand and know, but Dave Smith has a podcast. How do you pipe up anybody who's like hardcore working for the CIA, loves surveillance? I mean, has something called Lavender. You guys check it out. That's odd to me. So it was good to run into that clip for many reasons. And you know what? Joe Rogan really did put Dave Smith on. I'm not saying that he's like the worst thing. I think everybody should be able to talk. But this is why we should be able to also do our own research, even though the internet is just all over the place. And, figure out the answers for ourselves. At the end of the day, that's just really what it is. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.